What's up everyone? I don't normally make these opinion-based videos about my thoughts on TF2 or other things, but I think I'd like to start with this situation we are in surrounding the current bot problem and the second attempt at Save TF2. I want to put forward 3 questions I've found myself asking whilst listening and reading other people's point of views, but I see the potential that this time around it can either result in something good or something bad. So I'll just jump right into these questions. Number 1, is another hashtag Save TF2 event even worth it? Which is a question I've seen a lot being asked. It also plays into the next question point, but for now I'll just stick to this question first. This particular question was even being asked during the first Save TF2, and all I have to say is, TF2 is absolutely worth saving. It is a decade-plus old game that is unironically still worth saving. Most gaming publishers would kill for one of their games to last this long with a fan and player base as dedicated. Not only for the fact that this game itself still pulls in new players despite the overarching group of absolute spiteful degenerates that continue to try and ruin everyone else's fun and experience, but this game has by far the most devoted community I have ever experienced in any video game IP I have ever seen or been a part of. The charm that this game contains, whether it be its unique art style that needs some saving itself honestly, the almost flawless game modes and vast play styles it provides, and the sheer creativity that is not only embedded into the game itself and its characters, but surrounds it almost like a Dyson sphere, siphoning constant creativity and ideas from it. And yet that Dyson sphere, which is the community, doesn't just siphon creativity and then say adios muchachos. We then put that creativity back into the game itself like a symbiotic relationship. And I need to preface this again, this cycle has been happening non-stop for over a decade. If this game were just a regular run-of-the-mill game, by this time it should be nothing but a goofy far cloud memory for the gaming genre in general to look back on. But because amazing developers that created this game back when Valve leadership gave a f, they were able to create this timeless masterpiece. So yes, this game is 100% worth saving from the state that it lies in, as it continues to show existing and future developers in the gaming space just how successful a heavily stylized FPS class shooter can still be in this day and age, if done right. I realize other gaming companies draw parallels to this situation and suffer a lot of similar issues with the lack of good creative decisions, and it almost always comes down to bad leadership, where it be Blizzard losing all sense of identity and having to rely on going back to classic to boost their player numbers. They literally had to go back to their roots with WoW due to the constant lack of creative foresight. And you see the same with every other AAA company in this space. The only time you see true creative freedom and innovation of ideas is from indie gaming companies. But I could go on as there are many more points on this one question, but I'd end up blabbering too much at this point. Number 2. Will this second hashtag Save TF2 even have an actual effect on Valve this time? This question flows nicely off of the previous one, and I feel really needs to be asked. Now, in my opinion, if people just do the exact same thing that was done last time, it won't have any effect on persuading Valve to get into gear and actually do something substantial that would result in a net positive for the current state of the game. I am very much of the opinion that more needs to happen in this case, as in a greater emphasis needs to be taken to spotlight Valve's laziness of allowing one of their longest lasting and beloved flagship IPs to be dragged through the mud, so much so by a group of degenerates plaguing their servers. What caused the response from Valve last time was hashtag Save TF2 received so much limelight from so many online platforms and large creators megaphoning the situation across the internet that their reputation was questioned and they were forced to reply. And I feel that something larger, and I'm not entirely sure how much larger, is going to need to have to take place to have an appropriate cause and effect. Now, Valve, because of their creatively bankrupt leadership team, have become like every other AAA gaming company. They have forgotten what made them great in the first place, becoming what I like to call a bottom dollar holler company, where the only time you see any meaningful and creative change is when it's affecting their bottom dollar. That's the only time when you see these types of companies actually holler into action. But I've heard a few creators creators also make their point on stop opening their in-game cases, which in my opinion is a good idea because a lot less people should be gambling, especially younger people, mainly kids that play these games. However, this strategy can also come as a double-edged sword, especially for free-to-play games like TF2, where their entire profit model is based on these kinds of loot boxes. The stop opening cases strategy can work in gaining Valve's attention, but may very well spell the end for any and all future updates for the game, and I very much do feel like that could be a possibility. When profit-centric leadership teams in companies see that their products aren't bringing in any more money, they usually discontinue that product, and there is a risk that Valve's leadership team is no different. So the risk for that strategy is huge and has the potential to end catastrophically for the game and our community. But going on with my previous point, the community really needs to create a significant constructive critique to the point where Valve's reputation needs to be put on Mega Blast, so to speak. And as I said, it would need to be a significant increase compared to the first Save TF2 protest. All that amounted to was Valve trying to implement a small fix that lasted a month or two and had no effect long term. Rather than cutting out the disease root and stem, they just tried to apply a band-aid fix over the bot problem. So it had no real significant longevity. So to sum up this second point, this second Save TF2 needs to not only be more bigger and more constructive, but the effects from it need to be made more public in the online space. The more constructive the evidence of the bot situation is made by the community, the easier the viewers on the outside looking in can relate to the situation and actually give a shit. Figureheads in the TF2 community, like content creators, can help with this. Maybe by getting their fan bases to collect recordings of just how bad the casual servers are right now, which the creators can compile them into short to medium form videos of evidence showing each region's servers from each of their fan bases. Doing this will create a larger, more viewable and tangible picture that is easily digestible for everyone else to see. But that's just one idea and one way of creating a pillar of evidence to base the support this second TF2 push on. We can't have this second attempt to fall flat because some creators just want to use the situation just as a means to gain viewers, support, and subs on their respective platforms. If this is a community push, there needs to be a collective engagement by the community working together. I mainly feel that this is very important, as I find if we all just individually scream into the void of the internet, we will not have any effect at all, and we will come off as more annoying than informative from a caring standpoint. Yelling your outrage and showing raw emotion doesn't go as far as showing the surrounding gaming community just how bad things are. And if we have more creators at least collating this kind of evidence and data, then support from the surrounding gaming community may very well have a more lasting effect. As this time we want to put Valve's very deliberate incompetence on blast here. They very publicly stated that they heard us and that the game is very important to them as well. From their own actions, that statement was very much a lie. Results always speak louder than words. Number 3. What changes do Valve need to make if and when they decide to take action? Now, I'm going to go over what I feel Valve need to change and implement initially, but feel free to also voice your own changes and have your own discussions in the comments as well. Now, this first one is a little bit controversial, but can be probably done at a legal standpoint. First comes the swift response in an attempt to identify not only the hosters of these bots, but their creators as well for only Valve to legally go after them themselves. And those names, if and when they do find them, should not be made public and only kept for Valve's legal team. I understand that this endeavor may have its own difficulties, but if 4chan was able to win IRL Capture the Flag with Shia LaBeouf using the most minimal information, I think Valve can do much more identifying bad actors ruining their games and protecting their own IPs. Second, the creation and actual implementation of a hard fix overhaul which targets the ability that these bots are able to run on Valve's servers using the leaked code. Possibly even a change to that portion of that code that leaked. But a well-implemented and thought-out fix is far better than trying to apply a lot of quick temporary fixes over time. Third is to get more people working on the game. Now, this is sort of wishful thinking, and I understand Valve have their own unique employee work structure. But if they are making constant and significant money off of the community and players of this IP, they should have an appropriately sized dedicated team to update and look after the game. At this point, a few devs for every update isn't enough. Fourth is more updates, please, both minor and major. Valve have in their disposal artists, people that worked on comics, the voice actors that still show they have passion for this IP and love the community that surrounds it. But I feel if the decisions that stifle creativity are the ones being listened to over the creative ones, then no matter how many resources they throw into an update, it always ends in shit. Now, with those 3 questions over, I'd like to speak off the cuff. As someone that's loved playing this game since January 2011, I've experienced almost all the highs and lows and witnessed Valve's slow and painful deteriorating embrace of the game. And this whole situation is just crazy to say the least. Metaphorically speaking, I feel we went from easy and smooth sailing on a nice sailboat all the way to trying to sail up a rough, narrow river. Then as the TF2 dev team became smaller and smaller, both in number and creative effort being implemented to the game, that sailboat eventually became a small rowboat. And then we were all left trying to row up creek without a paddle. Then, after the bots came, that rowboat has now capsized and the community is left trying to grasp for breath in that little pocket of air in the capsized rowboat, but also now we're all covered in shit. Personally, for me, it's sad to see players that either just started playing the game or that started playing post Jungle Inferno update having to deal with what we have now. I feel those players really missed out on something special this game had, and that was its parent company simply showing care and interest in it. You had to experience it, man. The creativity and hype for this game was out the wazoo. There's a reason Valve has the potential to do things no other gaming company can do in a creative space, as they were pioneers with their ideas and creation. So much so they welcomed their own communities and fans to make professional and applicable content for their IPs. Almost no other gaming company has done that as well as Valve did. I miss what this game had. The stories made by SFM artists and the Saxy Awards that inspired people to take up SFM animation and get better at animation and storytelling to try and win a coveted Saxy Award. The excitement of new unique weapons being added to the game and how fun they would potentially work with existing weapons. The unique updates and cosmetic affecting items from those updates we no longer get, like spells, unique weapon stranger fires, collector's kits, which were a great way to sync metal, by the way. Also craft numbers from new unique hats from crates, which were also a great metal sync. I feel transferring to cases was a mistake. They should have stayed as crates, but Valve just had to implement the CSGO rarity system because of its success in CSGO. I don't hate CSGO, by the way, which is now CS2. I loved it. I played so much of it. But when a game as heavily stylized as TF2 has its own established identity, keep it that way. Before the source code of this game was leaked in 2020, the community's main complaint after Jungle Inferno was the lack of updates and support for the game, which at that time, Valve were still making millions from the game and still do. Yet now, with a decent amount of time after that leak, the main complaint is that we can't even play the game at all. As even attempting to join Valve servers, the bots are already on there, spamming the mark with BS, insta-killing anyone with sniper that isn't another bot, and vote-kicking people just as they load into the server. For anyone that doesn't play this game, the vote kick is a majority rules mechanic, and loading onto a team with majority bots, you have zero chance. The bots have evolved over time since their initial implementation as the creators of the program change and implement more things for the degenerate bot hosters to use. But what I've also been asking myself is, what if TF2 is abandoned and updates cease? If there is any gaming company on this planet with the ability and resources to deal with such an issue, it's Valve. And doing so can even show other companies how to deal with similar issues that may also plague their IPs as well. But Valve really need to get to the root of the problem and implement a lasting fix. Then, and only then, there will no longer be a need to apply any more temporary band-aid fixes. This game still has so much creative inspiration, enjoyment, and happiness to give the gaming community as a whole. I thank you for listening, and this game is absolutely worth saving.